Welcome to Working Smarter, Concise Compliance Conversations featuring Wendy Rubis. Sponsored by Village MD, primary care physicians. Practice medicine the way you've always wanted. Data, resources, and clinical decision support to care for your patients inside and outside the exam room.
Have you seen the video of the miniature horse on the plane?
What is this?
Look at it. It's
People
so
are not
cute.
going to think this is our podcast. Oh, I can't see it.
Oh,
Is it sleeping?
it's
What
just
is it?
sitting there.
Oh my God. Someone took a video of it.
Okay, there's another one of her walking through the airport with it. Hold on.
What the?
Here we go.
The horse.
Look
at
at how
that.
cute it is.
I don't know.
Wendy,
I don't.
are horses allowed?
I can't. I don't. I have no words. Was this recent?
I think so, yeah.
So,
Oh, August 30th. Yeah, this was just a couple days ago.
you know what would be a good thing is we should talk about the horse on the plane for our primary care physicians.
Oh, that's a good idea. Hi, welcome to Working Smarter. This is Janessa Nelson, Senior Legal Analyst. And today I'm joined by Wendy Rubis.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's so good to be invited.
Yeah, of course. We're getting these questions all the time, not only in headlines, but also from physicians and practices about service animals.
Yes, it's something that many times over the years I get a phone call about, but Janessa, I feel like it's more frequent today.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like we're seeing them more. Maybe it's because of more people have emotional support animals.
Yeah.
But those are different than
I
service
just never-
animals.
I guess I
and-
never really knew about emotional support animal like that. I don't know if that was a thing until recently. Maybe it was, maybe not, but you hear the word emotional support animals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the legal framework here is that everybody knows the Americans with Disabilities Act. There are certain enforceable rights of individuals, and one of them relates to the ability to bring an animal with you into a private place of business. So this is a legal issue because the Department of Justice is actually somewhat active in enforcing this.
Yeah.
And if you ever go on their website, you can see many healthcare providers that have had uncomfortable sanctions and processes and things from the Department of Justice. So it's not our biggest risk, but it is something that happens. And I think that's why it's important that we share these rules.
Just to recap, what we're trying to say is, yes, you have to allow service animals in your practice.
In
if they
general,
are
yes.
a service animal specifically.
So there are nuances that I think many of our listeners may have questions about, or the way the questions come into us. So why don't we take our listeners through those? So the first one is, I know I have to have service animals, but is this animal a service animal? What is a service animal, especially with all these emotional support peacocks and things today?
Yeah, so specifically based off of the ADA regulations, a service animal is a dog or a miniature horse.
The horse blows my mind.
I know, right?
I have to say, in my years of practice, the number of times I've actually had a horse is zero.
I think they're becoming the new thing.
What is it about the horse?
They can live longer, apparently, so you train
How
them.
do you know that? What?
They're
I mean,
random things that stick inside my brain.
a lot of random information knowledge comes from Janessa. Thank you.
So a horse can live potentially 20, 30 years, and a
Did you
dog
have
typically.
horses growing up?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I ride horses.
Okay, new information about Janessa. Can we get a horse avatar with Janessa in the
we
future?
can't.
A horse. So a service animal is not a peacock. It is not a ferret.
It's
is
a dog or a miniature horse.
Right. So the next question is, okay, it's a dog or a horse, but doesn't it have to be service animal? And more specifically, can I ask the person, is that really a service animal, or is that just your pet? So
Kind of, not really. So you can ask, the one question you can ask is, has it been trained? But you can't ask for a certification.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I think
I mean,
the likelihood that someone goes, no training whatsoever is minimal.
Probably.
And so as a practical matter, you know, it's not good to do a lot of teasing out about the training. To the extent that they believe they need this dog, you know, it's better to turn attention to practical matters about how to handle things. The next question is, and this comes up more recently, is can I verify that the person actually is disabled enough to need an animal?
Yeah, and I mean, this becomes really complicated, right? So originally, we always saw service animals for blind individuals. And
Right.
you can tell that someone is blind most of the time. But service animals have become more popular with a variety of different disabilities, including PTSD, Parkinson's, epilepsy. I remember when I was working in the emergency room, we had a woman come in who seemed very healthy and young, but had an animal with her. And we were like, oh man, it's probably an emotional support.
Yeah.
Yada, yada. And then we learned she actually has epilepsy.
Wow.
And so the service animal was being used to alert her before an
That's
epileptic
amazing.
seizure.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, no, do not try to verify that they need the dog
Exactly.
Okay.
Or a miniature horse.
or horse. But again, I'm struggling a little bit with the horse. This gets weird and hard for physicians and other providers who are afraid of dogs. And that's a question I get. Can I just refuse and say I'm afraid of dogs?
No, you cannot. Try and use common sense approaches, having someone else help you, see if another provider can assist with seeing the patient. But no, you have to see the patient if
Now,
they have
I
a
will
service
say
animal.
this. Most of the time, you should not be afraid of a service animal.
They're very well trained
Yes.
if they
So-
are a service animal.
If that helps with the fear. But the other thing is, if the animal is acting crazy, then we have other approaches we're going to talk
Exactly.
about. So if there is something to be afraid of, you should not have to deal with that.
Exactly.
But if it's just based on your own fear, then,
We're kind of stuck.
and know that a service animal truly probably is not going to attack you.
Well, I mean, they're trained to sit silently and not interact with people.
The next question is, and I mean, this isn't as big of a deal with primary care physicians as it is in, for example, inpatient units and things, but I get a question of, where do I have to let the animal go?
Yeah, and I mean, there are some restrictions, somewhere where sanitary precautions are vital, surgeries, places where procedures are being performed,
That makes sense.
pharmacies, but a patient room where you're seeing a patient in a primary care office,
Yeah,
the service animal has to go.
right. They don't go in the break room.
They don't go in the break room.
Right. So common sense, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah. The next question is uncomfortable, but what if the dog or horse
Yeah.
has to go to the bathroom?
So the patient is responsible for cleaning up after their animal, whether it's a dog or a miniature horse. So physicians, staff, you are not responsible. You can ask the patient
Ew.
to clean up after their
I
animal.
will say this, and do you agree? Because it seems that you know more about this than me. If it's really, the service animal tends not to have an accident.
The service animal is trained to not go inside. I mean, that's part of their training.
Right. So shouldn't happen, hopefully. But if it does, it's not supposed to be your job to clean it up. What if the animal is ferocious, barking, disrupting?
So in those cases, you are able to ask the dog to leave. There are certain scenarios where a disruptive dog, an unhealthy dog, a dog causing issues and problems in the clinic means that either something is wrong with the animal or they weren't actually trained to be a service animal, in which case
Yeah.
you can ask the animal to leave.
So here again, I would say common sense prevails. You have to allow the animal, but you don't have to be a victim of poor behavior. You don't have to let it disrupt your. There's a limit. There's a
Yes,
limit.
correct.
The expectation is that the service animal knows what they're doing. And if it gets weird, then you can set a limit.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So one suggestion I've made over the years is to create a pamphlet, and I think you'll see this in the Department of Justice materials as well. You can give a pamphlet to a patient with the guidelines, and that's helpful to everybody. That way the rules and expectations are understood. And if you're working with Village MD, of course, we have a sample that we can provide and you can use just to remind everybody of kind of where the lines are.
I think that would be really helpful for physicians to provide patients if they
Just
so
gets them on the
choose.
same page.
Exactly.
Right, good.
So key takeaways. Service animals are only dogs or miniature horses.
You can allow others, but that's what you have to allow.
Exactly. Service animals are trained and are regulated by the ADA to provide a service to disabled people. So we allow them and respect them in all places of service, including our practices. You cannot ask for a license or proof of disability, but you can ask if they have been trained. And then also, if an animal is being disruptive, sick, or unkempt, common sense prevails. You do not need to ask to keep an animal in your clinic that's causing significant problems.
Got it. Well, thanks for the rundown of Horse on a Plane, and we appreciate you listening and hope you'll join us again for this and other important topics.
Hey!
Thank you to our sponsor, VillageMD. We hope you will join us for future concise compliance conversations.